Okay, so hello everyone, welcome to yoga after the August holidays. And so I think what we'll do is we'll dive into a bit of a review of the main things that we've been doing over the past hundreds of weeks of yoga. So let's just start lying on your backs. And importantly, not to force anything, but just as you settle into the floor, just feel into whether you need a little bit of support under your head. So, and you can look at me if you want. You don't need to be able to lie with your chin completely in and a feeling that the back of the neck is flat. That's not helpful. But at the same time, if your chin is way up and you feel that there is a pull back there or the curve of your chest is such that you're not comfortable, then a little support under the head is very helpful. Very, very helpful. So see what you need. And then let's just start with the legs straight for a minute. A little bit wide, a little bit wider than maybe you would naturally do. And the arms quite wide. And the palms more facing up than facing down, even if they're not completely up. And then just listen in. Listen in. So before we start to correct and adjust and lengthen and put ideas in there, etc., just listen in to where you are right now. What's easy? What's feeling heavy and on the ground? What is in relation to what? And what catches your attention? I can feel that my head is tilted slightly to the right. My right shoulder seems to be more up, and I'm lying a little bit more on my right rib cage than my left. You may feel other things, like more heavy in your legs, more available in your upper body, a sharp pain, lots of comfort. And as you listen in, just letting yourself really letting yourself notice where the weight of your body goes to the floor. Don't apply the idea that you should be heavy and that your chest is the heaviest thing, but really notice where you are on the right or the left. More in your heels, more your bum, your chest, your head, arms, the particular way the arms are lying. So we're just noticing the weight and the relation to the surfaces of the body that are in contact with the ground. And you don't need to tidy things up or get symmetrical or any kind of idea, any ideal idea is not important right now. Just noticing how maybe that is changing. And then opening your attention in such a way that you are really letting yourself be on the ground. So just notice this letting the weight be on the floor, all the different weights, and letting the ground come up and support you where you feel that contact is happening. And then we're just going to begin to move the head on the ground. You don't need to pick it up. It's just a gentle, oily movement from side to side. Side to side. The breath and the movement of the head. You can make a complete side to side or more of a juggle, or it doesn't matter, it doesn't need to be very considered, just letting the head move. And as we let the head move, allowing the mouth to hang open, really letting the mouth to drop open and back. Soft inside the mouth. Noticing that the saliva, as we relax, the saliva, we become aware of the saliva, and then it's natural just to swallow. And notice the saliva descending and the head moving again. So as we find the ground and as we open to our weightedness, then we begin to notice the ebb and flow of the breathing. And it's much more organic to begin with the weight, whether it's weight that goes down or weight that goes up. If you're an elephant, you're going to think of the weight on the ground. If you're a bit of an albatross, it may feel like you're hanging from the sky, but still on the ground. So, and then from ground and weight and sky, as we move, we notice that we are breathing or we are being breathed. And we don't put the movement of the breath in your belly, and you don't need to have any ideal about it. Just notice where it goes. Rocking of the head, the weight, and the breath. Then let your awareness travel to the periphery of the body, out to the toes and out to the fingers. The head is moving every now and then, and open from the center to the periphery, a feeling of openness, of at least of awareness. Right. Then we go to the right foot, and we slowly let the right leg turn out a little, and we bend at the knee, and we let the right leg come up with the knee bent and the foot on the ground. And we're just going to let that right leg rock towards the other leg, so the pelvis, the right side of the pelvis may come up again. And then away, 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 and open, open, open. And then towards and away and towards. So you can make this movement a little bigger so that it's really rocking your lower body. Faster, slower, bigger, smaller. When your leg is rocking across the other leg, use the foot to push a little so that your lower back comes off the ground again. And I'm doing the movement if you're not sure. And then come back down and rock open and rock across. And we're going to just make a as you rock the leg. Nice. Nice. Yeah. I think we could make Henriette's trousers part of a kind of yoga uniform that we all wear from next week. And then we can work on the top. What kind of top we're going to wear? Lycra. Maybe a lycra top, maybe, or maybe a straw bra or something. But yeah, so the leg, you look great in that, John. The leg is rocking. That's it. And as it goes, that's beautiful. The pelvis comes up. Yeah. Voilà. Wait. Yeah. Yeah. So you can be more slow, right? That's one way. Or you can be a little faster, depending. Yeah. Yeah. So that the momentum actually surprises you a bit as that movement travels up the spine. I think as a Scotsman, that's probably quite wild.
Is that enough, is it? If you want more.
You could just, you could be more like that. Yeah, that's it. And so there is that moment across where you can go, that's it, maybe. You can go more. And if you were a little closer, it would, it would, there. Okay. Yeah, so the right arm, we're using the right leg. So if the right arm's a bit higher, it will pull less as you flop over. Yeah. Yeah. And there's a feeling that the whole body could forward. Yeah, and then making the sounds is helpful. Oops. Glasses and yeah. Okay, so in a moment or two, we'll change legs. Yeah, so just come to rest, Yeah, come to rest, just notice the difference. Receiving the end of the movement without being all sort of sacred about it is wonderful. Just you stop and you just listen in and you feel, oh, okay, so what's shifted? What's changed in my perception? Yeah. Not looking at and performing, but always in the spirit of participating. So I was moving and now I'm just observing. If you're practicing on your own, you could get up and walk around, etc. We'll do that a bit. Okay, just noticing. Then the other leg bends. The other leg is rooted. Yeah. The other leg, yes. So just take a moment to feel the foot. Yeah. So when we came online, and if you were coming to my classes in London or whatever, you'll notice that learning to listen to the weight of your body in parts and as a whole, and how that relates to the ground is one of the foundational vocabularies for the grammar of learning, not learning to move, but learning to play as you move, making sense out of moving, allowing discoveries to percolate up. The weight, that's one thing. And we are weighted beings, and we see each other as weighted, You know, we're not normally levitating or floating away, but we actually forget that. And then we tidy ourselves up and hold posture, and that's exhausting and usually leads to grumpiness and a deterioration of world peace. So that's one thing, the weight. And then, of course, that's linked to our inhabiting of the space. Because when you're frightened or embarrassed or you've been shocked, your sense of weight disappears, you stop moving, and your nervous system is a bit frozen usually and trying to either run away or prepare to attack. So the breath stops. So most of us interfere with the full ebb and flow of breathing, especially out breathing, because we're not really there with the ground. So we don't really breathe out. And it's like rechargeable batteries. If you never discharge a rechargeable battery completely, eventually it doesn't work anymore. You gotta, it's gotta empty sometimes. And our breath should do the same as we relate to the ground. It should empty, 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 empty. So here we are with the weight, with the ebb and flow of the breath, and we're making this rocking motion, great, rocking motion with the leg. And then, of course, we've spent a lot of time looking at legs and hips to spine, arms and shoulders to spine, and then the flexion and extension, front bend and back bend of the spine. Those have been big themes that we've looked at. Lots of movement of the weight, lots of breath. Let the leg really, when it opens wide, feel that. And when it opens across, that's it, feel that. And if you're pushing a little bit, yeah. So when you go the other way, just don't rush after it with this. Yeah, you can do. Yeah, so that it's not all moving as one piece, that leg and that pelvis. Great. And then coming back, and then having both legs bent, feet on the ground, and just sensing into what's up. Where are you now? Huge feet, toes, a new sense of space or line through the hips, the chest resting on the floor, the head, aware, aware, aware. And we're just going to let the knees fall towards each other. You can widen your legs a bit to make that easy. Just drop the legs towards each other. Your legs may touch very much at the knees, or like mine may not, just because of the pattern of how we hold our legs, etc. So the legs dropping towards. You can take your two hands and just rest them on your thighs if you're feeling like your legs are struggling with that, like mine are. So just to feel into that. And then we're going to let the legs drop wide, completely wide. You don't need to move your feet. Just leave them there, just wide. And then back together again, legs leaning against each other. And then wide. So you're rocking through your feet and come up to vertical with the legs, so the knees are pointing up. And then both legs to the left. The breath, you can have a hand on your belly, hand on your chest, and both legs to the right. And always, whenever you want to, yawning, making sounds. And just letting the side to side of the legs begin to percolate up your spine. So the pelvis rocks, the spine responds, the rib cage. And back again and across. Great. And coming to the middle. Okay. So we'll just be on the floor a tiny bit longer. Let's just, feet on the ground, knees pointing up. Let yourself be heavy. And from the tips of your fingers, begin to let your fingers float up. So just the fingers, not the whole arm. And drop your hands. And again, from the tips of the fingers, letting it all float up. And now the forearm. So the elbow is heavy on the ground, but the whole glove of the forearm is floating up. Let your hands look in different directions or little circles, and then drop them. Fingertips, taking the fingers, taking the whole forearm up. Elbows rooting, very heavy through the rest of the body, and letting the forearms go. Fingertips, fingers floating up, the whole forearm, heavy feet, aware through the spine. The whole arm floats up. The whole arm right up to the shoulder blades. Floats up. And just letting those arms move playfully, slowly, fast, big, small in the air. So the arms could be making a rotation on their own axis, like I'm doing, or little circles one way or the other. And so you're not doing the movements to do the movements. You're just letting the weight and the olive oil in there slush around. Yeah. Heavy, free to breathe, free to be in the way as the mystery of the flying arms is happening. And then let the whole thing drop through the elbows and floating up again, floating. Huge openness through the hand, through the arm, floating, floating, floating. Aware, very aware, reaching and dropping through. Wonderful. So one arm could take off and fall, another arm could take off and fall. One leg could float up through the knee into the foot. Try not to strain, so let your leg really be above you, so you're not hanging onto it. And then drop it bent, so the foot hits the ground. The other leg, it could be 2 arms and 1 leg, or 5 legs and 1 arm. Yeah. Or everything floating up, so you're like a kind of like a dead cow or sheep lying on your back, or dead cockroach, with your legs floating around. Yeah. And then the floating, it's important to float up from the periphery, so from the fingertips or kneecap. And the dropping, it's really important that you really let it drop. Yeah. Max, do it with your legs bent. It's better, it's safer. Voilà, les jambes pliées. Voilà. Et quand tu es comme ça c'est bien. Mais quand ça tombe sur le pied. Yeah. Nice. Moving, breathing. Wonderful. And just notice what's changing. I mean, I can see just from the way you're lying on the floor. Yeah. So the head, the freedom of the arms through the shoulders. How are you doing? Yeah. Flying, dropping. Breath. That's it. The breath. Very good. Sarah? The flying, the falling. A few more times. So it's a foundational exploration, this. Remembering what it means, putting all the members back together again. Remembering what it means to really be glued together in gravity. Doesn't mean being one big immovable block. It's a very articulated you, yes. And remembering as you tune into the weight that there is no correct place to put the breathing. Lots of ideas we have are just ideas. They may help a tiny bit, but they're not really the whole reality of how we're put together or what may be going on because you're just uncomfortable or something's not working. Very nice. Yeah. Well, okay, and then again, just be still on the floor, legs bent or straight, whatever you like. Arms quite wide, breathing, and just noticing. The central line from head to tail, the ebb and flow of the breath, the sense of the periphery, all the weighted parts, where you are with your mood. Simple, 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 simple. Okay. So after a few more breaths, roll onto your side, hang out there for a tiny bit, and then keep going so that you come around onto your hands and knees.
You've been too much in the mud.
Okay. Okay. So this is the same, but completely different to what you were doing before. Think about it.
Yes, it's all
because
not floppy anymore.
Yeah, but before you were lying on your back, on your central part, and you were free to move the periphery. But now you're lying on your periphery, right? And you're much more free to move the central part. And that's interestingly how we move, how we relate to the ground and to each other. So here we are on our hands and knees and feet bits and mouse poops and other things. Yeah. And so we're just going to let the floating torso float around, just floaty. So don't forget to be heavy where you're making roots. So heavy in your hands, heavy in your knees. You don't need to be symmetrical. For years I taught, get yourself all symmetrical. But I realized that being symmetrical in your base makes you swallow the tension into your body. So you're just on your hands, you're just on your knees. They can be a bit lined up or not, it doesn't matter. If something's uncomfortable, don't line them up so much. And then you can float around your left bottom, your right bottom, your head, your right ear can make you float forward and back. That's a pretty obvious one, head to tail. But also the whole thing can go to the side, onto the right hand and knee, or the other side. or diagonal. So off we go, figure of 8. Yeah, so floating, what does floating really mean? Well, it's a combination of pushing. So you may notice that you might be pushing a little bit with that left hand or that right knee, pushing and reaching. So you might be reaching a bit with your head as you push with your left leg, or reaching a bit with your bum as you push with your hands. Yeah. And we can accelerate and just make a bit of a huge circle back and forth, big and small. Some of you have your brakes on in your hips, some of you more in your shoulders. So try to just be very oily. Very nice. Noticing as you roll through the knees, if you need support or something soft under the knees, put it there. Great. Great. And then, of course, the whole torso could sag to the floor. So the whole torso can hang down to the floor. Yeah, up here, just let it hang. The whole belly, belly button, organs of the belly, chest, lungs, heart. Normally it makes the head come up a bit and it makes the tail go up. Yeah. Or it could be the other way. The head drops to the floor, the tail drops to the floor, and the spine is allowed to float up. Float up. And back down. So we can be reaching and pushing and floating in the cow position with belly hanging, or what? Earthworm position with spine up. Yeah. So sometimes in yoga it's called cat pose, but I think cats probably would be really offended. But so you can be more this way, more that way. You can be floating around, more back, more up, more round. Letting your tongue hang out. Wonderful. And then when you come back to a middle place, let it happen. How does it happen that the chest is neither completely hanging down or up, and everything is floating and long from head to tail and out to the sides? And the breath. Imagine for a moment you're an eagle soaring way above the landscape of your yoga mat. So down there are the hedgerows and the little mice and other things. The river. So you're way, way up in the air. Let yourself go. Let your vision go totally peripheral. So you're not focusing on anything special on the mat. You're just floating, floating. Now curl your toes under. So tuck your toes under. And we're just in that floating eagle flying kind of way. We're just going to lean back into our bottoms. So your sit bones, the bottom. Keep leaning back. You'll notice that the back of the pelvic floor starts to open in a way. And then you can slide a little bit forward with your hands so that as you lean back, you can drop the elbows and the forehead to the ground. Toes tucked under, bum in the air. Yes, it's a very, 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 very special and secret pose known in the Sanskrit as bottoms up. Well, the correct pronunciation is bottoms up in the correct Sanskrit pronunciation. So David, you've lost your connection to the secret teaching.
Oh dear.
Yes, your bottom is going down.
No,
Yeah,
no,
keep
no,
going,
no.
keep going. That's it.
You hadn't mentioned world peace, so there was
Not yet, not yet. So okay, so you do have some connection still. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, right there. Right there, I think you swallowed a bit of baguette that's stuck. Right there. That's it. So sit bones going up. Okay, it's me, Heidi. I'm just going to put my hands here. So I'm just going to push you forward. That's it. Now stay here, but walk forward with your arms a little. Yeah. And drop your elbows. So you see you're up, right? Up, but dropping through. You feel uncomfortable? Toes, toes. So sit bones in the air and tail in the air. Spine hanging through. We're going to stay here. No? Stay. Here's good. But walk forward a little bit more. One. More. Aussi la tête. More. Voilà. So feel this. So you can drop. You see here? Tu peux laisser tomber un peu ici. Voilà. Encore plus. Ça va avec les jambes? Un peu? Est-ce que tu as besoin de quelque chose?
La hanche.
Ah, la hanche. Ah, la hanche, elle est contente. C'est ici.
Pas contente, la hanche.
Attention les lunettes. On va mettre ça. Non, comme ça. C'est bien. C'est bien. Oups là.
C'est lui qui est pas bien.
Ah oui, c'est le. Oui. Je mets les lunettes ici.
Merci.
Breathing, tail keep going up, spine keep hanging off. No, that's good. Okay. So we can reposition ourselves in a minute on the mat. Here we are hanging through, toes, knees, bum in the air, letting the spine hang through. Now you really need your toes tucked into the ground. Open your hands so the hand is aware and touching the ground. And then push from the toes and start to come through with the head. Come through over the elbows, and then your elbows will come off the floor as you come through. Your elbow, that's it. Come through. Yeah. Tu fais ce que tu peux, je vais revenir. Yeah. So then it's up to you. You can let it hang completely through, although it's not 100% productive. It's okay, even if so. Keep your toes bent if you can, yeah, so you get support. But what I would do is not, instead of just hanging through, have your toes, be awake in your hands, and it's as if your head was growing up. So that's what wakes the body up. So you're not just hanging. The head is growing up, and you can even open the hands just a little. Yeah. Try to feel this awareness from the toes through the hanging. It can feel kind of very, very dynamic around the base of the spine. And now watch, we're going to push with the hands and go back with the tail. Not like this, but just back through, and down to the floor. Toes. Tail in the air. Let the spine hang through again. That's it, Heidi. Yeah, that's better, Max. So the spine is hanging through. Yeah, the spine is hanging through. Yeah, tu sens ça? It's a journey of letting the whole thoracic cage begin to open in this extension position. Yeah. And then, okay, you're ready with your toes. You're ready with your toes. Your head starts to wake up. Your antlers start to grow. You push from the toes and you start to come forward and through. That was great. All the way through. And toes. Anyway, so it's a very profound movement. Very strong movement. Yeah. Let it come all the way through and let yourself open up in here. In here. Deep inside on the front of the spine. Yeah. It's an anti-grumpy movement. It's not possible to be grumpy in this movement because you have to be in flexion to be grumpy. You can't be grumpy like that. Toes. And then we, just before it's too late, and we have to call the ambulance, we go back with the bum, back, all the way back, all the way back. And it is the very thing that opens the portal of the human family to world peace. What?
No, I've all the way, so not all the way. Not to child.
Not to child pose, but yeah, that's it. So keep feeling this. That looks great, John and David. You're in great position. Yeah, really discovering this. Really, child pose is very easy for anyone to do. Just put a few cushions here and there. But to get the feeling of your bum going up and your spine hanging off is very important because it's really the thing that the spine lacks, and it makes the spine be a kind of a marshland when it doesn't have this deep backbendy feeling, the opening along the front of the spine and the widening of the pelvic floor. The de-tight-assing is the Sanskrit term for what's happening. De-tightenasa. Asanasa. You can write that down if you want.
I think we should.
You can have a moment. Yeah. Okay, here we go. You're gonna stay there with the huge squirrel's tail in the air, the toes, and then we're not gonna flex the front of the body. We're just gonna lead with the head. Let the throat stay open, and we're gonna come through all the way. And now bend your elbows a bit and let your chest open like the front of the chest is opening like a peacock's tail or a cobra's mantle. Open, length, free head. And we reach back with the right heel. So the right knee comes off the floor. The toes stay on the floor, that's it. And you really open the back of the knee. Yeah, open the back of the knee. Rest into the right side of your sacrum. Keep opening. The right knee goes down. The left heel reaches back. The left back of the knee opens. Lean into the sacrum on that side and down. And the right heel goes back. And now the left heel goes back and both knees come off the floor. Yeah. Yeah. And it causes a kind of cosmic smile to happen across the whole body. Yes. The Dutch are doing much better than the Belgians
Do it now
at this moment. Oh, the competition is starting. Okay, so reach back with the heels and then reach forward with the head. So you move a little bit over your toes. So we're like this. Bum doesn't need to go. C'est bien, Max. On a fait beaucoup. Oui. Forward and back. And then we let the knees bend and we let the tail go up.
Oh.
We let the tail go up with the knees bent. We let the tail go up. So the knees are not on the floor anymore. You can see that each movement is a next unfolding of the previous set. So this is like being with your knees on the floor and lying on the mat. It's like, but the dynamic is different because you're now up on your toes. Right. So come up on your toes a bit more. Bend your knees a bit. Okay, now drop here. That's it. And you can let your head relax down. Yeah, do you feel the difference? Yeah. Yeah, so you're not flexing here. You're actually coming through. That's great. So it really touches on an issue in here for you, which is fine. You don't need to force it. Voila. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So that all drops through all the way. Yeah. Great. Great. And then coming down. Oui.
Si tu veux, tu peux te mettre sur le dos un moment. Reposer. La mécanique.
Oui, c'est bien.
Mais c'est bien, je suis étonné.
Oui, tu fais très très bien. Mais fais un petit repos et après tu reviens. Yeah. Ou sinon comme ça. Voilà. Yeah, so then just letting yourself rest. So we're going to come completely undone. Yeah. No, no. The way you were folding is good. Yeah.
Un child pose.
Yes. And resting forward. Letting the pelvis rest down. Yeah. So, yeah, so this is child's pose. And there are no rules, but of course, the legs together gives one effect on the hips and spine, and the legs apart does another. So you can play with both, legs together or apart. It changes the way we lie through. And then also, the kind of support that you need under your ankles or behind your knees, you can play with that when you have a moment, because that also changes the way you rest into the joints. And then the kind of support you have for the upper body. So if this is uncomfortable, you can put support for the chest. I find it very helpful to support the forehead a bit. Yeah. It allows you to drop in and to release the curve of the neck. Again, we can wobble the head. So sometimes it's important to look, but very often, once you get the basics, it's important to let the movement flow with a little bit of acceleration, but just enough so that you can receive the sense of moving, rather than looking at yourself, endless selfies of how am I doing? So we move and then we rest, or we do something ordinary, and then we notice that the whole system has been happy for moving. So in the cycles we were doing, you know, in the second half of last year and in the spring coming towards the summer, we had started to look at some of the standing poses and the balances and the beginnings of the sitting poses. So we'll pick that up again. But when you're ready, let's just from here, from being folded forward in child pose, let's just walk forward for a moment, arm at a time. Arm at a time, you feel your bum coming up. You feel your squirrel's tail starting to stick out. Don't go. Bending at the toes, tucking the toes under. And again, really noticing how diametrically opposed this movement is to the one you just did. In child pose, you're stretching the superficial layers of your back. And you're softening the whole front belly layer, one on top of the other. And in this squirrel with the bottom up in the air position, you are through extension and quietly opening the front of your back. You're allowing all the tissue on the front of your vertebral bodies, down the inside front of you, where all the organs hang off. You're allowing all of that to open. And it's rare that we do this during the day now. It's rare. Mostly we're in some kind of child pose about to fall into iPhone or other mobile device. Probably would be great if we lifted our arms and our iPhone above our heads and wrote our messages like that in this position. It would be very good. Yeah, and then coming down and then lying on your back. Ça va? Très bien, c'est très bien. Alors, on va se mettre une autre fois sur le dos. So we're going to lie on our backs, this time with the knees bent. Huge feet on the ground, lots of awareness through the head, from the tail to the head, feet flat on the ground. Yeah. Okay. So just closing, let your arms be quite wide, not higher than your shoulders, but quite wide, and palms up. So that you're very open up the sides of the body and into the armpits. Heavy arms, just notice where you are. Notice what's changing, what's more in the foreground of your awareness. Okay, so just to close, we're going to move in a different way, the arms. Instead of just leaving the whole arm heavy and letting the fingertips take your arm up like we did before, we're actually going to quietly lengthen the arm. So open your fingers. The palm gets very wide like a star, each finger opening. And it's like each finger was a long part of your arm from the center of your heart out. Yeah, so each finger line is waking up in your arm. So your arm is becoming longer and longer and wider and wider and opener. And then you let the whole arm come off the ground a few centimeters. I'm doing it if you're not sure. Feet are big, tail and bum is heavy, chest on the floor, head on. Very long, open arm, opening hands. Yeah. And then we're going to go up another 10 centimeters. Don't shorten across your chest. Do the kind of opposite of what's obvious. Keep opening out, like someone is lengthening your arms and lifting them for you. And then we're going to rotate the whole arm from the hand through the elbow, practically up to the shoulder, so that the palm faces your feet and then faces the floor. The whole thing rotated one way. Yeah. Go as high up as you can. You'll feel the wire tensions in your arm aching. And then we're going to de-rotate so the palm is facing up again. And now we're going to go the other way. So the palm is facing ahead and it keeps turning as far as it can go, and then come back and drop your arms. And we're going to bring the left leg in towards the chest and put your left hand around the knee, don't squeeze, and the right leg in towards the chest and the right hand around the knee, don't need to squeeze. That's it. And if it works, you can hold your fingers of one hand with the other hand. If it works, otherwise, just like you were before. And again, just folding quietly. Folding quietly. Okay. And then hang out in that position. Yeah. Or you can put your feet back on the floor. It's really up to you as we're closing. Yeah, so thank you, everyone. Thank you, all of you, wherever you may be, whatever time of day. And we'll see you next week. Thank you, Luke, for filming.